So, I've been waiting since last year to help induct Gary Loizzo into the Illinois Museum Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think it's safe to say that I was the first person to ever record with Gary. The original Pumpkin Studios was in his garage in Palos, and he drilled some holes in the wall between the garage and the family room. And I was out in the garage, he was in the family room. It was rock and roll central, baby. But before then, so I grew up in Oak Lawn, and so my next door neighbor was an accordion player by the name of Jackie Schwab. And Jackie told me, because I had just started taking guitar lessons, he said that if I came to his accordion orchestra recital, there was a guitar player that played with the accordions, and then after the accordion recital was done, his band played a couple of songs. And I'm like, all right, that sounds cool. I'm 12, I got a guitar, you know. So I go to the accordion recital, and I suffer through the 60 or 70 minutes of Flight of the Bumblebee being played incessantly. And then the accordions scattered, and a four-piece band came out, a four-piece rock and roll band from the south side of Chicago. They were called Gary and the Nightlights. And that Gary was Gary Loizzo. Yeah. So I'm sitting there watching this, and as a 12-year-old who had just started taking guitar lessons, all of a sudden, the possibility that I could be in a band made sense to me. I couldn't even conceive of it. It was, being in a band was stuff that guys from England did, you know, and I never thought that a kid from the South Side could do it. And when I saw Gary and the Nightlights, man, I was like, okay, anything is possible. This is within reach, and it was a big moment. All right, so then, a couple of years later, this is after the British invasion had really taken over, and there was a battle of bands at Brother Rice High School, and there were two groups playing in the battle of bands: Gary and the Nightlights and the Crying Shames. All right, so Gary and the Nightlights come out, and they are dressed in matching powder blue suits, and their hair is combed right, and they're handsome, and Gary's this handsome dude with this beautiful voice, one of the best voices ever, and they're doing like some choreographed steps, as you saw in the video, and it was just neat and clean, and they were awesome. Then half the curtain closed, the other half of the curtain opened, and J.C. Hook of the Crying Shames comes jumping off of a Fender Showman amp. These guys are dressed in like bell-bottoms and ruffled shirts like the Kinks, and I just went, oh boy, the sea has changed, you know, and after that happened, I think Gary saw the writing on the wall. It wasn't his thing, you know, but being the kind of person that Gary is, and anyone that knows him knows that when Gary puts his mind to something, he gets it done. So with a voice like that, he started working as a jingle singer in Chicago and became the top guy in the jingle business in Chicago, which was huge because Chicago was the place for commercial jingles. Gary was the man. Then, when that kind of ran its course, he had been working in studios all the time as a singer, and he decided that he was going to open his own recording studio. And that morphed into Pumpkin Studios, working with me as a little, as a high school kid, basically. And then he went on to, as other people have said, this amazing career producing and engineering Styx. One of the great moments for me personally was that I hadn't seen Gary in a long time. And he had been working with me for a while when I joined Speedwagon. And I felt kind of bad because when I joined REO, I had to leave Chicago. There was really no place for Gary because the REO organization was already formed. And I felt like, man, I went to him, I said, Gary, I don't know what to do, man. I owe you so much for all the love and all the care and all the mentorship that you have shown me. And he was like, man, don't worry about it. Go down to Champaign. Best of luck to you. I'll always be in your corner. And I was just like, that's the kind of man Gary Loizzo is. So fast forward to the year 2000, and REO Speedwagon and Styx get together and play a show for the very first time. We had never done a gig together until then. We were in Duluth, Minnesota, and the Styx guys came in, and I recognized Tommy and JY walking through the hall, and then I'm looking and I'm like, wait, is that Gary Loizzo? He looked exactly the same as he did when he was in the American Breed in 2000. I'm like, that's Gary. I didn't realize that he had been mixing tour sound for Styx. So for the last 20 years, REO Speedwagon and Styx have been playing together and become rock and roll best buddies, and I got to see Gary all the time and play golf with him and just soak up his energy. I owe Gary so much. He was the first person who believed in me at a time when no one else did. Well, maybe my mom. But Gary saw something in me that I hadn't really even seen in myself yet. And he recorded my songs. He helped me make my early demos. At a time where I was at a singer's block when we were recording our You Can Tune a Piano But You Can't Tune a Fish record. We were recording in Los Angeles, and I was stuck. I couldn't find my voice. And I was like, what am I gonna do? And I thought, I know, I'm gonna go back to Chicago, to Pumpkin Studios, and find Gary Loizzo. And he brought me in the studio, and he reminded me of how we used to work when I was a kid. And it broke the singer's block. So he's just. And I want to send a special love out to his son Todd, who of course is in the audience tonight. I remember Todd when he was this tall. And of course, Gary's wife, the lovely Diane Loizzo. Diane is out there somewhere. I probably talked longer than I should, but I just love Gary so much. It's so sad that he left us so prematurely. He fought so hard. He was out on the road after his cancer diagnosis. He didn't want to stop. Like I say, when he put his mind to something, man, he was going to do it. And the only thing that could take him down was this awful pancreatic cancer. And boy, if anybody could have beat it, it would have been Gary. So, Gary, everybody in this room loves you, none more than me and Diane and Todd. So